Hey kids, you're listening to the internet's wettest podcast about video games, consoles, and pancakes. The SML Podcast.
Prepare for the SML Podcast.
What's up, everybody? This is the SML Podcast. I'm your host, Joe. This is episode 999. How fucking weird is that?
Extremely.
Whoa.
Aki's here, Chris is here, Pernell's here, Andy's here. How's everybody doing?
A big number.
Doing awesome, man.
It is. It's the final triple-digit numbered episode ever.
Ever. Well, you could do some you could do subtraction episodes.
We now need to make this episode 9 hours and with 9 persons and somehow 9 doors.
Nothing.
We'll find the doors. We'll find the doors. I've got a couple doors over here. I got at least 3. How many you got?
I got one in my room. The other doorway is just open.
Looking at 2 right now.
I got a garage door.
That works.
That counts as at least 2 doors.
That's got to be at least 2 doors.
Yeah.
I got a question.
3 doors down right there.
Nice.
Well, I was referring to the DS visual novel. I'm sure everybody caught on.
Fantastic game. So yeah, I know.
I haven't played it.
Wait
a minute, what? You haven't played it?
No, I haven't played it. I didn't.
Christ, man, what are you doing?
DS games I own a lot, but I didn't really play a ton of them because
Do you have it though? You said so. You own it though?
No, I don't know. I have to look. I may own it.
If not, I think if you don't, I think it got a. I know it got a re-release. Whether it was on Switch or not, that I don't recall. But I know it got re-released, even though it doesn't have the dual screen component, which I personally feel is important. But if they felt that they could re-release it without it, they must have found a way to not make it matter. So either way, it is worth your time. 9 hours, 9 persons, 9 doors.
Oh.
It is one of my favorite games.
I don't think that it did get re-released. But let me see. It says
Wikipedia is showing that it got re-released on literally everything. It's even on Xbox One, apparently.
I've never really heard of it.
I see. I accidentally... I did the wrong thing here. When I was looking for it, it looks like it did get...
Oh, I see what happened.
Except Switch.
The updated version was released alongside a port of Virtue's Last Reward as part of the Zero Escape and Nonary games. So it was part of that.
No, okay. But that didn't come out on Switch, so...
Yeah, that's weird.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of surprised by that myself. And I want to say it came out during the existence of the Switch. So that kind of forgorgles my snorkel, but whatever.
What was that?
Exactly.
Dude, I hate when my snorkel gets forgorgled.
Yeah.
Right? It just,
the worst,
right, though?
dude.
Like, I don't ask for these things to happen, and it just does, and it just kind of annoys me.
It's cool, man. We're all here. We support you.
And I appreciate that.
Got you, bro.
Support is what friends do for each other.
Since we're coming up on the holiday, what's everyone's favorite and least favorite? Have we started the episode?
Oh, yeah, it started. Before we get to that, though, big shout out to Jordan, who just subbed for the 10th month. Jordan, thanks for the support. Enjoy the emotes. I know you do it for the bonus contest, so enjoy those too.
All the pancakes.
Wow,
and the pancakes. Everyone does it for the entries. You get triple entries on contests if you're a sub. Worth it.
Yeah, I don't have an Xbox though, so none for me.
Well, don't worry, because on SML 1000 we will have codes for other platforms.
Oh, wow.
Not many,
we'll have an Xbox to give away.
I got a couple of codes for you.
Okay, is that a euphemism?
No, but it could be if you wanted it to be.
Is it leading towards code these nuts?
I got a code for you.
I got a code. I got a couple of codes for you, baby.
I want to know what's everyone's favorite and least favorite spooky Halloween time game.
I don't even know.
Favorite's probably Resident Evil 4.
Resident Evil 4 is a good choice.
Yeah, that's still my favorite Resident Evil. I thought 5 was fun with a partner. 6 I never even got into. 7 and 8 are great, but we're just so different that they're in a league of their own. Of
7 is the scariest one for me. Yeah.
4 is my jam. I loved 4.
Yeah, 4 was good.
I just beat 7 2 days ago, and I thought it was awesome.
I should talk to you then, because I started 7, loved it to death, and then you get to a point in the game, without spoiling it for everybody else, but you'll know what I'm talking about, a specific character sends you on a ridiculously annoying fetch quest that makes you go all over places you've already been. And I'm like, look, I don't have time for this. That killed my momentum right there. I was like, I can't do it. It was so good up to that point. And now I'm wondering, how much time does that take? If I were to just dive back in and wreck it and just resolve the game, how much time does that stupid part take?
I don't. Where was the fetch quest at? Because I don't remember that one, to be honest.
So you fight the first boss. You know who I'm talking about.
Oh yeah.
You fight the second boss. You know what I'm talking about, which leaves one other air quotes boss, and then that boss calls you on the phone and tells you something, and then you have to go find stuff for him.
Oh, it's not. No, it doesn't take too long.
Oh, okay.
And it doesn't take very long. And there's I think there's other encounters, if I remember right, that you kind of hit along the way too.
Oh, okay. So maybe it won't feel like such a retread if I do it.
I mean, honestly, the game is only I beat it in 10 hours on stream, and half of that time is me doing silly stuff, So the game's not super long.
But say full disclosure, and it may come up here in a few minutes. But you can usually double a time for me when it involves a game that requires you to look for baubles and doodads and googacks, because I want to find everything, which means I'm staring into every pot and vase and sink I can find. It just slows me down. You don't want to watch me on the stream playing a horror game. It's just not going to be fun for you.
You check every toilet.
I really do. Hand down the toilet.
I'm not much of a achievement hunter or anything when it comes to games like that. The only game that I really did that on was Fallout or Fallout 4, and I went through every box, every canister, every trash bin, whatever it was. And after that, I think I got my fix for life for
every carbon copy living room layout.
Exactly, yeah.
So again.
Yeah, now I'm just oh, it's a toilet, and there might be something in there. I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm not much of an achievement person either. But even without that, I'm just compelled to want to find all the stuff. Now,
we're kind of off the topic. What are some of your favorite Halloween?
Oh, that's right.
Sorry,
Chris had a good question. We got to stick with this one for once.
Segue. I'm going to say Resident Evil 7. Done.
Nice.
Aki, what about you?
I don't think I have a favorite, but my least favorite is probably a little indie game called Perception, because it's about the only game that's ever existed that's made me fear pee to the point that I quit playing it.
Ooh.
Yeah, fear pee. Yeah, it's a thing.
That's been our running gag for years. Fear pee.
I thought you were afraid of pee.
You got so scared you spritz just a little bit.
I gotcha.
Fear pee.
Oh my god, are you urinating? This is horrible. Get me out of here.
Every time you go to the bathroom, huh?
Go to worst fear.
Why does this happen?
The fear of breathing. God, why do I keep doing this?
What's up with Perception? Why don't you like that one?
In Perception, you play a blind woman going into a haunted house, and there is a ghost, and obviously you cannot see. And the only way you can see is by tapping your cane, and it lights up an area around you, very short area for a very limited period of time. But every time you do that, the ghost
can hear you do it.
Yeah, can hear you do it, and you don't know when they're going to come after you, and if they're near you. Well, if you tap it, they're going to find exactly where you are. So you have to hide and wait for it to go away, and I did not.
Fuck.
The moment I had to hide, I stopped liking it. I was like, no, thank you. I do not like not being able to see anything.
That's wild. Sounds like a cool game.
Yeah, it's on Xbox, I believe Steam as well. I don't know if it's on PlayStation or not. But yeah, it's a really good indie game made a handful of years ago at this point. Nice. But yeah, I don't have a favorite one though, because that's the only game I've ever found particularly scary. So,
$20 on Steam if you want Perception.
And it's
I'm looking at it right now.
Wishlist it. There you go.
Very cool.
I think they came on to chat about that game if I remember correctly.
I'm not sure anymore.
They may have.
Too long.
It's been that was like so 2017, so that was like a whole different world to me.
Yeah, that was a bit long ago.
From where you come from.
So Chris, what about you? What are some of your favorites and least favorites?
Oh, glad you asked. No, I'm just kidding. No, I was just thinking about bad horror games because I was asked to come up with a list, and I was curious to see what everybody. I was more curious to see what everybody hated more than what everybody likes. But of course, so my I have to go with the classics in terms of not classics, but like really old stuff to like get the stuff I really like, which is I love the Gargoyles Quest series on Game Boy, NES, and Super NES. I think of those, Gargoyles Quest 2 is the one I've beaten, so I guess I could call that my favorite. But I do like Demon's Crest a lot, too. It's really good. Let's see. That's
a good one.
I'm looking for that one horror game that I played that was a Kemco hit point release where you shoot zombies and stuff. That one was really good. And I'm trying to find the title of it because I'm terrible with titles. I'll get back to that one, though. Also,
Raging
of
Bites,
course,
was it?
Yes, it was Raging Bites. Thank you. That was exactly what it is. I love that one. And if it counts, then Castlevania: Order of Ecclesia. But
if we're going Castlevania's, gotta go Symphony of the Night, obviously.
Yeah, they're kind of their own thing, but I guess you could consider them horror games, and so that would be really good. I also really enjoyed not the classic Splatterhouse; those are good, but that one that they made on the Famicom that was a little more cutesy. It was like, and it was only in Japan for a while. But yeah, it was called Splatterhouse Wanpaku Graffiti, I believe.
Didn't they re-release that in one of the Namco collections?
Yes, it's in one of the Namco collections. I forget what they call them specifically, but it's like the Namco like Classics Archives or something like that. But yeah, they're groups of like the Famicom games that they came out with, and they were like translated into English or otherwise kind of left alone, because they were already in English. That's usually how it goes with Namco. But yeah, Splatterhouse Wanpaku Graffiti is available that way, and that's how I played it, and I really like it.
I thought you were going to say Splatterhouse from the PS3 and 360. Has anyone played that version?
I haven't played that version. How is it?
It's weird because the mask is voiced by Jim Cummings.
Oh, cool. That's weird.
So you have Darkwing Duck calling you a fucking pussy?
That's interesting.
That's hilarious.
Weird. It is very cool. Weird.
Is he using the Darkwing voice, or is it more like...
Very close to it.
Very interesting.
Very close to it. It is, like, you could tell it's Jim Cummings. It's amazing.
Wow. I had no idea.
It's not the best game in the world, but it's different.
No, I'm going to look this up now. That's great. Is it just called Splatterhouse, and it's on the 360 and PS3? Amazing. Yeah, it's called Namco Museum Archives is what it is. But yeah, the Wanpaku Graffiti one is like I said, it's chibi, it's cutesy, but it's more fun to me. Like, it doesn't feel as squishy.
This is what the cover looks like if you're looking at the stream.
Yes, I am. Nice.
There you go.
I wouldn't have even thought, I mean, apart from the fact that it's literally called Splatterhouse, I wouldn't have related that to the the
I forgot
game.
about the soundtrack in it. It has like Mastodon, Lamb of God. I should play this. I should play this again for.
They just toured together
for the holidays.
They did a special Splatterhouse themed tour. I'm just guessing.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah. So of course the So of course the one that I don't like the most would be Agony on the Switch. Hated that one. But you know, but let's also go classic with this one too. I really did not like that one game. Came out on Genesis and Philips CDI of all things, but it was an Apple II game originally. It's called Dark Castle, and if you never played it, it's just the worst little slog. It's like a platformer where you shoot things, but you have to like use the controller to aim your gun, and it's like you slowly point it up or slowly point it down, and it's just like really confusing and terrible. But everybody loved it back in the day. I have no idea why, but it got so many great reviews. But Dark Castle is like one that was really annoying.
I'm not familiar with that one at all.
Yeah, it's pretty annoying. But yeah, of course the classic Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde on the NES. That one's kind of famous, I think, for being bad.
Quest, that count?
I love Fester's Quest actually, but I understand people usually don't like that one. but I personally am I have a lot of affection for that one. I actually have a brand new sealed copy of it on my shelf. And
or
I bought
Acolyte saying Friday the 13th on the NES.
That one is weirdly got its fans. By the way, if you're looking for Splatterhouse Wanpaku graffiti, Namco Museum Archives Volume 1, that's the one that has it.
Nice.
So they go on sale for like $5 sometimes. So, pick it up someday. It's got some great games on it. Yeah, Friday 13th has its fans, weirdly. But no, Fester's Quest, I actually bought that one brand new this year without realizing I already owned a fully boxed copy at home. So
nice.
So now I just got 2 boxes of it around, and I'm like, fine. Somebody wrote on the plastic on the Fester's Quest that I bought, and they wrote "amazing" with many exclamation points. It was not on the plastic, like the actual shrink wrap. I mean, like it was in a plastic case to protect it, and they wrote on the case "amazing" because I think they were talking about the condition of the game. Because it's like not only is it brand new, it's not like squished up or anything. But yeah,
those aren't easy to find.
I also recently played Van Helsing on the Game Boy Advance. If you've never done that, it's very, very silly. It's like this terrible platformer.
That's a thing?
Yeah, so if you don't remember when the Van Helsing movie came out, the one with Hugh Jackman, they came out with like the PS2 and I think Xbox games for it. But Nintendo got a GBA game instead of those, and the GBA game is miserable. And speaking of that era, though, how about Vampire Reign? Does anybody remember that one?
Well, wasn't that one awful?
It was supposed to be, yeah. They talked about that one for like 10 years. And then finally, it went away. I think everybody forgot about it collectively. So
we're
those
talking
are
about horrific games. How about Sneak King?
Sneak King, is that a horror game?
That's a Burger King stealth game.
I remember it, yeah.
Oh, I saw that one. Yeah.
I guess if you're easily jump scared by burgers, that's a terrifying game.
Just imagine walking around and then having that king just pop up behind you. That would be scary as hell.
The frustrating thing about Sneak King is that I have yet to find like anybody who actually played it for any amount of time and hates it. They always say it's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
But in what do you call it? In writing, it does not seem very appealing. But I'm not a fan of Burger King anyway, so
no.
I think I own that one too.
Nice.
For the 360 or so?
Yeah.
I don't know how to hook up my 360 to. I could probably find a ROM or something like that.
Capture card. You have a capture card, right?
I do, yeah. I can do that.
Plug it into that.
You may could. Anyway, thank you all for talking to me about classic games. I just wanted to get everyone's little opinions.
Dude, thank you, man.
If we're going to talk about potential horror classics, that could lead perfectly into our first review. What do you think, Pernell?
Whoa!
I didn't answer the question, but I can do the review.
Well, what are some of your favorites then?
I have a long list. The two that generally come to mind are Outlast, which I actually reviewed. Cool. It was one of the first games I reviewed for this show.
I always hear good things about that one.
Mm-hmm. I played the entire thing in one sitting on Easter Sunday because I was hooked on it. And nice. I don't know how that happened, but it wored. And it was like a good 10 plus hours or so, but I did it in one sitting.
I love how badly calibrated that holiday was.
I don't know, believe it or not, there's a point in the game where I was like, wow, this is surprisingly appropriate for Easter Sunday. It did not seem like it would be, but it found a way to fit in. And then the other game, of course, though I don't get to play. I think the weird thing about me is I don't get to play a lot of games over and over because there's too many games in existence to do that with for me.
Amen.
But I remember bits of them enough to say this counts. And I would say Silent Hill 2 was pretty much up there for a long time too, just because even though you only play through it once or maybe 3 times to get endings, it got under your skin narratively in a way that the other games in the franchise didn't. Except excluding the first one, of course. The first one was like that too.
Yeah, and by the way, I did not mean to exclude any Silent Hill games. You know, I'm not purposely dodging the classics. I literally have not played a Silent Hill at all, even though I got to play bass for the actual composer of the music. So
that's insane.
Yeah,
that blows my mind.
So cool.
I mean, the first Silent Hill is like, yeah, I get that because when that game came out, I blind bought it really because I hadn't heard about it in any magazine, though it was probably in them. I hadn't heard about it. I just saw it on the show. I was like, wow, Konami did a horror game? I guess they're trying to compete with Resident Evil or something. I'll buy that. And I was like, this. At first, I was like, this is kind of janky. And then I went, this is fucking great.
Yeah, I did buy the original Silent Hill 2 to have him sign it, so I will play that someday. It's just, I don't get around to horror games very often. It's only when they come up for review, which appropriately is what's going on today.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Pernell, should we do it?
Yes, though I will just say I can't think of a horror game that I don't like. I think my brain purged my memories of it, whatever it would have been. So,
what about Silent Hill Book of Memories? Do you remember that one?
I didn't mind it. It just wasn't a horror game. It was like it was a roguelike.
It was.
So I was like
a dungeon crawler.
Yeah, somebody like
or
that one
kept give us some bad horror games. You're the pro.
Yeah, give us some bad ones. The more classic, the better, by the way, because I love to take notes. I have go ahead.
I feel like all I'm saying is I feel like naming the bad games in most cases is the harder thing because they don't, unless you had a bad experience with it, which made it bad, you usually just kind of purge it. You just forget. And it gets replaced by, things that are great or positive or fun. So, like, if I saw the case for a bad game, it'll come right out of the file cabinet. Oh, that piece of shit, like Shadow Madness. Fuck that game. Which isn't horror, but I wish it were so I could include it on this list. But yeah, I just have a hard time remembering bad games until I get a visual reminder that it existed.
The Evil Inside was mentioned, An Evil Existence. These are probably like indie games, I'm guessing. That's it. It almost seems like you're cheating if you mention. Good, wasn't it? Evil Within was good.
Within.
I love Evil Within. Yeah, that was great.
Evil Inside, I just looked up. It's a Jandu Soft game.
Jandu.
And it runs $13. So,
oh, good Lord. I
take that as you will.
To view this game.
If you want to play a piece of shit, it's only $13.
I don't know if it's a piece of shit.
I thought he was saying it was.
But I don't personally.
He's naming games he didn't like.
I can't verify that.
Oh, personally.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like I can't imagine Horror Acolyte naming a game horror-wise that he thought was bad. And I'm like, oh, no, that was a great game. I mean, everybody has different opinions, but he knows his stuff. So I have a hard time picturing him naming an outlier that I like.
You want to know a good horror game? Golem.
Oh, there's some horror, all right. I can't.
That's
and then I realized I paid money for this piece of shit.
Pretty much.
No refunds.
Oh man! Any other games anyone wants to shout out?
I wish I could think of them, but I feel like I named the main ones. It's not a horror game, but
yeah, I sprung it on everybody, so it doesn't give people enough time to think.
Crash Rando's Land of the Dead, Road to Fiddler's Green. Never played that one. Never played that one. But if we're talking older games, Left 4 Dead, those are classics.
Of course, that was not
a good one. Though.
I kid you not, I'm literally staring at that game right now. I'm scrolling through my list of games from oldest to newest, and I was just passing Left 4 Dead 2.
I really like the little kind of. They almost are like RPGs, but they're more like just walk and click, I guess you could call them. Kind of adventure games, or kind of
like the Shadowrun type stuff.
I guess like just there's no combat or anything like that. Yeah, there's no combat, but you do have to walk around and do RPG things and like find stuff, but there's no actual like combat or anything. But like My Big Sister is one of those, like just like a little 8-bit like story almost. I like those. I got to review a couple of those, and Ashina the Red Witch I think is one of them.
My Big Sister's getting a remaster.
Yeah,
just got one last week.
I think it got one on Steam some time ago, and did I review it or something? I don't remember. Let me see.
Possibly. I know Bree's covering the Xbox version of the remaster.
I do have My Big Sister remastered. I think I reviewed it, so it's just coming to Switch now.
We need a Gilson B. Pontus horror game. I think they're all horror games.
I mean, if you like, yeah, I guess. I was gonna say, like, there is an element of terror, but I don't know that they're supposed to be horror genre games.
Horrible.
Yeah, they're horrible. That's very, very true. Oh, another shout out.
Master of the Zone.
Another shout out to an old game, well, a classic, I guess. That's an arcade classic. That's getting a re-release remaster. Night Slashers.
Oh.
I don't know if you ever played that. But Night Slashers was a really over-the-top, gory beat-em-up, where you just like ripped apart zombies and stuff like that. And that was a Data East game back in, I think, 93 or so. And that one is getting a whole reboot treatment. I don't remember where it's going, like if it's getting released.
I think it's out already, and I think it's on everything. I want to say Jacob covered it.
Oh, okay.
Got it on Xbox.
I saw it coming up at some point, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I played Night Slashers. That's one of the ones I've actually beaten." But I had
thought of one that didn't get named before as a good one that I feel, even though I haven't played it myself, I feel like after what I've heard, I'd be remiss to not mention it, which is that Alien Isolation game.
Oh yeah, a lot of people rank that as a favorite.
Yeah, everything I heard about that, I think it's what I've heard about. That's the reason I haven't booted my copy up at any point. It was like, I don't like the idea of getting ripped out of a locker and devoured.
If we're throwing out recommendations for the spirit of the season, check out Pinball M. M-rated pinball. Yes. Nice. Pinball tables based on like System Shock, Duke Nukem, Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Playboy Bunny.
That's awesome.
No, there's no Playboy in there yet.
Damn.
There are actually there was a brief period of like horror themed pinball games on systems like Dragon's Fury on Sega Genesis and Devil's Crush on the TurboGrafx 16. Devil's Crush has one of the most amazing intro songs if you're into like 16-bit metal. Go look up Devil's Crush and listen to the music. It's amazing.
It was the inspiration for that Xeno Tilt game that we talked about. Oh no, I guess Xeno Tilt is the sequel, but the original name was inspired totally by that.
Yeah. And of course, on the Game Boy Advance, you had Pinball of the Dead. Do you remember that one?
How about Typing of the Dead?
Yeah, Typing of the Dead's great. You can actually get that on my Abandonware right now, and it works with your standard computer, like keyboard. Dope. I beat it a few times. I got up to normal mode where I can beat it. I haven't tried any of the harder difficulties, but I'm pretty good at it. Pinball of the Dead is like taking the House of the Dead formula and adding an element of pinball. So that was also that was a good Game Boy Advance game. Inexplicable. Nobody asked for it, but it came out anyway.
Bimber saying that, yeah, an Alien Isolation sequel is in the works. Finally.
Damn. Okay, I need to get down to this game then so I can be ready for that monstrous sequel.
The sequel is going to be an Alien Date.
Honestly,
first you have Isolation, then you have the Date.
Honestly, what I would like to see from a second Alien Isolation game is where you're playing as Newt. Like, from before the movie where they find her, just her trying to survive. That would be so great.
You know what would be cool?
An alternate ending where you would get away, because knowing how it ends would kind of take some of it away. But if you can get out.
They should do more games like they did the first Jurassic Park on Genesis, and just let you play as the alien. You know? Just like have a whole different kind of game where you're actually hunting the people. Yeah, you know. It wouldn't fly nowadays, I'm sure, but I mean, what was that?
What you're looking for is a game called AVP, Aliens vs. Predator.
I've played Aliens vs. Predator.
But
then but I mean, just like take something like Alien Isolation, but just, flip the perspective.
Yeah.
Carrion.
Like have to like you
Carrion. Check that one out.
Yeah, Carrion.
Yeah, cool.
I didn't play Carrion, but it was on my wish list for like ever. I might get it pretty soon. But Carrion looks really cool. But I'm thinking like Alien Isolation, like first person, like you gotta like learn the ducts and stuff like that, and like you get like kind of extra sensory perception as to where people are and stuff, so you can sneak up on them. I just think it would be cool. But no, you're right. Like the Aliens versus Predator is like the Jurassic Park game where you're actually playing as the alien. I mean the xenomorph alien, not the Predator alien. They're both aliens.
Ooh, Injury mentioning Scorn.
I didn't play Scorn. Oh, is that? Yeah, that was that weird, like, I remember that one. Yeah, I watched somebody stream that one. It was weird. I saw the ending and everything.
Fine.
Oh, yeah, that one.
It was fine. You didn't like it, Aki?
It was okay. It wasn't amazing or anything.
It was more like, I guess because they were going for that Geiger look, it was just more like an art piece than anything, super gamey.
True.
A very moist game. I would describe it that way too, yeah.
Didn't somebody review that on the podcast?
Aki, did you review it?
I may have.
I remember you talked about it.
Am I going to have to look it up?
Probably. I don't know if I reviewed it or if I just played it because it was on Game Pass.
I remember somebody reviewing it and talking about a lot of dongs in it, but that's all I remember.
Yeah, there are dongs everywhere in that.
Did you anybody ever play Ju-On the Grudge on the Wii?
No.
Scorn, Aki, and Grant.
Nice.
Yeah, it was fine.
I might have missed that review because it might have been a Thursday.
Yeah,
it was almost assuredly a Thursday.
Yeah, Jacob was on there, so that was a Thursday.
I got you. That's why I missed it. I'm just kidding. But yeah, Ju-On the Grudge is, I think, the only Wii horror game that's like truly badly rated, unless you count Escape from Bug Island, which I actually did play a lot of. But yeah, it was like, the thing about it, besides the fact that like people really, really seem to hate it, and like apparently it just wasn't scary or anything like that. It's like atmospherically it kind of is, but then once the action happens, it's just like terrible. But you can also, with the second player controller, activate jump scares randomly, or not randomly, but like at the first person, at the first player. And I actually kind of like that as a gimmick.
Pretty neat.
Yeah, just have the second person just suddenly jump scare the first person. You can really lose some friends that way.
God, yeah.
Anyway.
Oh, man. But anyway, we should probably get into the reviews. We're talking about horror classics, and it's time to find out if we have a brand new horror classic on our hands. First game to talk about tonight is Silent Hill 2, developed by Bloober Team, published by Konami, code provided by Konami for coverage. Released October 8th on PS5 and PC for $69.99. Investigating a letter from his late wife, James returns to where they made so many memories. Silent Hill, what he finds is a ghost town prowled by disturbing monsters, cloaked in deep fog. Confront the monster, solve puzzles, and search for traces of your wife in this remake of Silent Hill 2. Pernell, tell us about your time with Silent Hill 2.
So I mentioned earlier in this dialogue that Silent Hill 2 is one of, if not my favorite horror games of all time. And that comes for a number of reasons. So I won't go into the ton of that, except for maybe in the back end as I'm describing stuff. But it's worth noting that I hold Silent Hill 2 in very high esteem in my gaming library. And when I heard that Bloober team was going to be handling this remake, I was worried about it, despite being one of the rare people that actually liked the medium. I was just worried that they wouldn't get or hit the notes properly in, transferring the vibe that Silent Hill was meant, or I always thought was meant to impose on the player. And I am glad to learn after playing this here that I was wrong in that. I was okay with being worried, but my fears have been assuaged. I'm happy with what I got here. This is a fantastic product in that sense. But I'll talk about the game in itself, so I'll give you an idea what's going on. As Joe mentioned earlier, you play as James Sunderland, a man who is looking for his lost wife. She's been missing for a couple of years, and one day he receives a letter that tells him that she's waiting for him in Silent Hill, where they have memories at. He needs to find her in their special place. So he is there. He is on the prowl, trying to figure out where she's at and reunite with her. And that's the context you get walking into a town that, for all intents and purposes, even when at the so much on the offset of the game, you have no business being here. Like it's a mess. But this guy is determined, and that is your first clue of like something is weird with this right now. But that's okay. That's part of the charm of this game. As you explore the game, you are tasked with following a series of clues, whether they be visual or auditory, or by way of conveyance through one of the NPCs you may meet as you explore the town, all of which have their own backstories and purpose. So no one you meet in this game is just kind of there. Everyone has a purpose and a meaning. So get used to chatting with the people you see and wondering, what's that person's deal? What are they all about? Part of the charm of the product. But as you walk around, one of the first things you'll notice that they did a great job on in this game is just atmospheric noises. As James is walking from the parking lot to the entrance of the town, which, by the way, is a lengthy walk. In the original game, I remember just kind of walking it and just doing my beat, like, where are the monsters? I can't wait to fight a monster. That's when the real junk starts to happen. But they did a good job with the audio cues to make you kind of jump, even though you know nothing's going to happen. Taking a step in the mud and hearing the sloshing sound and crunch when you step on like leaves or like different textured pavement or textured ground. Looking down and seeing that you're leaving footprints on the ground and whatnot. It has a great touch to it. And then there's like these weird audio cues, which, by the way, if you were wondering, I was going to say Akira Toriyama. Oh my God. Akira Yamaoka was still a part of the OST. He still did the OST for this version too, which he is a large part of why the games are as good as they are, because the audio work that guy puts in is phenomenal. And this game is no exception. So you'll be going through that process and kind of just exploring and taking in the atmosphere and the environment they created here, which they did a good job of. It's very menacing. The foggy sections, whereas in the original game, it was, well, the first Silent Hill was about technical issues. The second game, they leaned into it a bit, but it wasn't too bad because, graphical effects and all. But in this game, they make the fog extremely menacing. It's windy. Wind is blowing everywhere. It's imposing. It's not just blinding. It feels imposing in a lot of ways. And especially at points when the game goes out of its way to make it particularly freaky. But basically, the way I want to put it is like, the atmosphere is great in this game. And don't get me started on Otherworld with the rust and crap. They did a wonderful job with that. Combat, as you might know in these games, occasionally James will come across monsters. The monsters, I'm not going to go into that. Just know you fight some monsters. And when you do so, unlike a lot of games of this ilk, he is meant to kind of perform like a Joe Everybody, an everyman character. So he is not proficient in combat. And I personally feel as though the controls convey that very well. You get access to melee weapons, you get access to firearms. And the firearms, of course, need to have ammo and reload them and such and such. you can quick swap between weaponry using the cross pad, which is fantastic because it sure as heck beats going into the menu like you had to do in the old game every time you wanted to change a weapon or reload a gun. I am glad in this game it's very straightforward. It's wonderful. But when he swings a weapon, he's kind of cumbersome with it. He doesn't just kind of go in on a melee rampage, knocking dudes out. He's like, he makes audible grunts indicating that he's trying to swing this freaking plank or his pipe in his hand or whatever. And he does get tired in a sense, or if he doesn't get tired, it just sure as hell feels like it because you'll be in the swing trying to wind up for another one, but you got to wait for him to be ready to do another swing. And when you fire a gun, you don't get to, there's no running gunning. If you try to line up your sight for your gun, there is a cursor that kind of narrows in for the target to take a shot. And if it doesn't get completely narrowed in, you have a high chance of missing your shot. And that may sound like a crappy aspect to a game, but in this game, it makes sense and it works. Because again, you're not a trained soldier unless you're playing Homecoming, unless then something happens there. But yeah, you're not a trained soldier. You're just a dude trying to find his wife. And this is probably the first time you've ever held a gun in your life, and it shows. And I like that because it adds a lot of tension to the combat, which one thing about this game that I'm not sure, it's not a bad thing, but it definitely threw me off and I had to get used to it. Because I personally feel like combat takes a more of a front seat in this game than the previous game. They did a good job improving on the combat mechanics so it's more fluid. But the trade-off is that I feel like there's a lot more monsters in this game than there were in the other game. More areas where you're fighting mannequins and freaking vomit caskets and nurses and the like. They're out there everywhere. And I'm constantly chugging drinks. Health drinks to heal up, which, by the way, is another thing that they improved on, is how you heal in this game. You have your health drinks and your syringes just like before, but again, you don't have to go into your menu to access them. Instead, they do a feature where you tap the triangle button to do a health drink, but if you want to use the syringe, which is the more powerful version of a heal, you hold it down and you go through the motion of hitting yourself with a syringe. So it's contextual and it's wonderful in that way. Dialogue, pretty much identical to what it was in the original game, though they did get different voice actors. And I'll be that guy that outright admits I kind of missed the old campy one, so much so that I went and found a video. I went looking, I don't know how I came across, but I found a video where someone was like streaming the original voice actor of James, watching him play Silent Hill 2, the original, because he, despite voicing the character, had never played the game before. So Hearing him talk over that playthrough, I was like, there's James. That's James Sunderland. This guy's good too, but nostalgia is a bitch like that. I feel like this game treated me very well. I don't know. It's hard to convey. Like, I'm not sure if I'm missing a certain beat to it or not. The things I should be explaining to people that I haven't. But
here's a question for you. I'm not 24. Sure how far through the game you got. But from what you did play, is this more of like a remake of Silent Hill 2 in a actual remake way? Or is this like a Final Fantasy VII remake kind of thing where they just put their own spin on it?
No, it's very much a remake. Though I think the spin comes in the form, and I did look this part up because I was personally curious about it myself. It's its own game. But the personal spin comes in the fact they did add some endings to the game. So those endings were never in the original game. You're only getting them here, and you only can get them through New Game Plus. How did I figure that out? Well, because I was missing pictures, and I didn't want to miss pictures, going back to what we were talking about earlier in the episode. And I had to figure out how many pictures did I miss. And, of course, Rabbit Hole opens up, and I learned, there's 2 endings they added to the game. So yeah, there is new content to the game. There are some new monsters that will pop up, or like behaviors will change. Even guys that you would expect, like you might be even early in the game, like you might come across like one of the first parts, maybe go, what the heck's this all about? Is one of the primary monsters you'll fight frequently are these little like flesh casket walking things that will vomit, like just puke all over the place. But they're generally slow and staggering. But then early on, like you get to like one of the other world sections, you come across one and you're expected to behave just like the other ones did. And this thing starts freaking out and running up on you. Like, why is he so aggressive? They were never aggressive. And then you learn there are some enemy behavior changes they added to this game. Probably they account for the fact that they improved the combat. So There are surprises. Yeah, that might seem like a spoiler to you, but it's not. It's just a small detail meant to convey to you the fact that they did make some surprising changes. You'll see them and go, oh, wow, what a nice touch. Though, admittedly, with that said, you could also be like me and remember the main beats of the game, maybe specific boss fights, which they did make some changes to some of those, by the way. But you might remember things like specific boss fights and the like, but it's the minutia. It's the minutia that you forget. Because, again, your brain can only follow away so many details. So, in that capacity, you will be playing this game, going through like some of the old locations, and you'll know things like the iconic chase scene and, I don't know, the woof woof, and just random bits. But getting there will feel awesome because it feels like you're playing a brand new game in a lot of ways. And even some of the puzzles got a little bit of a tweak. Not ramp changes, but tweaked enough where you go, huh, they made this a little different. I appreciate that. So, would I pay $70 for it, though? Well,
that's the question.
And I do hate talking money because it comes down to what a person's pulling. If $70 doesn't mean a whole lot to a person, then what they friggin' do? Also, they are lucky as shit. But with that said, I do believe, price aside, because there's always sales and the like, I think they did a really good job here. I feel as though if you're the type who, well, first of all, if you're someone like Chris who said he's never played the game before, just play this one at this point. I think is perfectly doable. Just switch right over to this one, get the updated experience, because you're getting all the narrative beats plus additional stuff, which is the most important part, and they got the atmosphere and characterizations correct. If you are the type that plays this game every year for Halloween, well, why not upgrade a bit? You may as well play this new version because clearly you love the game enough you've been playing it every year. How about giving it a little bit of a spin? But if you're more of a casual person and you're like, I liked Silent Hill 2, but do I need Silent Hill 2 again? Well, you may not need that. Does that mean I think the game is bad? No, quite the contrary. I had genuine interest in this game. I was concerned it wouldn't be good. Glad I was wrong. And personally, I do believe it's worth buying. Absolutely worth experiencing and playing through. It's just the cost that's going to be up to whatever the person sees as justifying what may be a retread. So I guess one more thing I'll say about this is, obviously my memory is a little loose, and I do know that back in the day I could get through a game fairly quickly because my brain just worked differently 20-something years ago. But this game feels longer than the original Silent Hill 2. Like, the locations are the same. Like, you go to the same places and you do the same primary things. But I think they expounded on certain elements, and maybe the added combat might slow you down.
I was going to say the added combat might add some time to the game and give it some extra playability.
I guess one more thing I could say they added that I think may have added time for a person like me specifically. You can smash and grab at certain points. Like, you're walking up the street, you can smash open windows and grab stuff off of sills and inside of cars. Are there things in all the cars? No. Are there things in a lot of cars? Also, possibly not. But the fact that some
you
cars
searched them all, didn't you?
Every goddamn car. Every window. Like, ooh, smashy. It's like, I'm in happiness there. So, like, just weird little tidbits like that feel great. And
Residents the fact of Silent Hill are like, who's this motherfucker smashing all my windows?
Give me shit. Like, but God, and one more thing I'll mention before I wrap up. If you've never played Silent Hill 2, one of the best things about this game, and why, if you've never played, this is an absolute must-buy. There's no question about that. It's that I still believe it holds up in the sense that when you play through the game and you understand everything that's happening and whatnot, you get to the end for the first time, or even at points during the game, you're going to have questions. And though a lot of the mysteries have since been either solved or been talked to death, you may still find yourself compelled to get on the internet and go, what the fuck was up with blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. And you're going to have some dialogue about it. You're going to go, how did this person do the thing when this person did the thing over there? Like, well, that's the internet. You're going to be talking about it because this game, it just elicits conversation. It makes you want to talk about what the heck's going on. And to me, that is a marvel in game design, in narrative game design, especially in the modern day, because This game came out in what, 2001?
Yeah.
And it still feels unparalleled to a lot of games.
2001. Oh, that's so long ago.
Yeah, it's freaking weird. And so few games, in my opinion, reach the high this game's narrative does. To this day, it's just that good.
You know what else is good?
Wrapping it up.
Mr. Coolness coming in with a sub for the 4th month. Thank you for your support. Thank you for hanging out. Enjoy the emotes. Enjoy the kitty cats.
Enjoy the sub.
Indeed.
Oil, lettuce.
Here are the subs.
Those commercials were legendary. Kids today won't know the insanity that were fucking Quiznos.
Oh, we bring it up all the time. I'm sure they'll, every kid's gonna eventually see it.
Old people are talking about Quiznos again.
Yeah, it's our generation.
What's Quiznos?
It's our generation's Max Headroom.
That did not help at all.
Well, yeah, that's going older rather than younger.
Help me.
Yeah.
Oh, anyway, next game to talk about is Wizard of Legend 2, developed by Dead Mage, published by Humble Games, released October 3rd on Steam Early Access for $24.99. Face perilous magical trials in this fast-paced roguelite follow-up to the acclaimed original, featuring co-op and vibrant new 3D models, master new arcana and elements, experiment with spell combinations, and become the next Wizard of Legend. Andy, tell us about your time with Wizard of Legend 2.
All right. So if you were a fan of the original Wizard of Legend released back in 2018, not quite as long as 2001, but 2018, by Contingent 99 and Humble Games, then you might be willing to give this one a try. As Wizard of Legend 2, as you mentioned, is developed by Dead Mage, a new developer. Although with the assistance of the original developer, and as it stands in early access, feels honestly a lot like the original Wizard of Legend, maybe like a 1.5 more than a Wizard of Legend 2. Veterans of the game will
Dead
notice.
Mage did Shadow Blade and Children of Morta.
Yes, they did. They did. Also, some great games in there too. I mentioned Children of Morta later too, but but yeah, no, Children of Morta is another good game. But yeah, Wizard of Legend, I would say currently feels like a 1.5 more than it does an actual sequel. Veterans of the game will notice a lot of similarities between the two, along with improvements to graphics, overall game mechanics, and ease of play. The game has also adapted a few quality of life improvements that roguelikes today have incorporated, so that the player doesn't have to devote hours into mastering the game itself. With that being said, Wizard of Legend 2 offers an enjoyable experience for new players and veterans alike. A roadmap of what to expect in future updates is also available, as the game is in early access. It is available on the Steam store page and includes details of new biomes, enemies, bosses, and 4-player co-op, even an expanded story to it too. Now for the new players, I'll kind of dive into the game and what you can expect to experience. Starting a new game will allow for a choice in character and elemental type. The game focuses on 5 elements, being fire, water, earth, wind, and electricity. Choices determine your starting attacks, but can obviously later be changed, as new magical abilities, which are called Arcana, can be purchased with in-game currency. Some stylistic options for your wizard can also be purchased, but don't really have any effect other than to make yourself look like a badass. The player's initial loadout...
If it makes you look cool.
If it makes you look cool, then go for it, right?
Yeah.
The player's initial loadout will be 3 main arcana and looks something like a basic attack, spread attack, and large area attack. I, of course, chose fire because that is the most badass of all the elemental. And, of course, my basic was a fireball. Secondary attack was a kind of a fan of fire coming out of a big dragon's mouth. That one caused burn, and a large area attack that I kind of switched out after the initial one it's like a large fire whip attack. Players can also earn 2 more Arcana while exploring the biome levels, as well as change their Arcana in a shop, pre-run or mid-run too. Upgrades for their existing Arcana are also available if the opportunity arises. The player will also have a dash and an ultimate move too, based on a signature bar that fills up while you're fighting enemies. Currently in the game, there are 2 main biomes. It's the jungle and the desert. Desert with 1 S because you don't want seconds. A player will traverse through 1 and 2 main levels. You like that joke? I learned that the other day. Traverse through 1 and 2 main levels in the biome to then come in contact with a boss encounter, 1 or 2 more levels, and a champion boss encounter before moving on to the next biome. A main boss is one of 3 elemental wizards, either the water, electricity, or earth, and are recognizable from the original game. Those are set at random too, so you don't know which one you're going to fight until you actually fight it. The champion boss, however, is specific to the biome, so I was actually able to beat the whole early access release, and I don't want to tell you what the biome bosses are because they're pretty cool. You'll just have to play it yourself. Both sets of bosses drop a type of like spirit orb, which can be used in the main hub to unlock and upgrade run modifiers. And these can actually make the game easier or more difficult depending on how much of a masochist you may be. Getting to each boss involves plenty of speed and skill. Wizard of Legend 2 is a fast game, lots of quick fights. Enemies roam or appear on the map while exploring and lock the player in a set area until you defeat them all. Skeletons, snakes, bomb plants, djinn, giant bugs, and archers are all some of the very many enemies that you'll encounter while roaming, along with plenty more enemies that they're going to release in future updates. Like I said, battles are really fast and enemies hit really hard, so learning what each enemy type does, kind of looking for cues that they're going to attack. There's generally like a kind of a movement that sets them off, or like a red meter that comes over. Especially if it's like an archer or like a long range attack, they'll have like a red crossbar going across the screen. Learning all those kind of helps a lot, getting through the biomes. Plenty of dash attacks, lots and lots of dash and attack situations. And then also relics, which you can also pick up to help your character as well. So some of the relics include like the water cushion, which is like an orbiting shield to get rid of enemy projectiles. Assassin boots, which will give the character plus 50% crit chance after dashing. Fire rod, which increases all the burn effects of your attacks. There's tons of them, and you can unlock more in the main hub. The main hub doesn't have a ton going on right now, but pretty much just there to kind of unlock stuff and try out moves. Relic and Arcana shops can be found in the map and can be bought for coins obtained from defeating monsters or found inside breakable objects on the map. Honestly, there's plenty more I can say about Wizard of Legend 2. There's Chaos Gems that you can use to purchase more customizable options, or more Arcana, or more relics that you can equip. I did one you can equip one main relic as you're going into a run, and it was, I can't remember the name exactly of it, but it's just like a play on Burger King. It's just a big Burger King monster, and it gives you like plus 60% life if you've been attacked, and attack the monster back like immediately, which was awesome. That was a huge bonus. There's like rifts in the biomes as well that offer you like kind of a challenge. There's either like an arena type challenge where you fight a group of enemies or bosses, and then you get some health back and usually like a relic. There's mimic chests, which I found a couple of those as I was playing yesterday, which are really cool too, and they attack you with all the element types. There's just tons to this game too. I mean, I would compare it to the current list of like great roguelikes they have out now: Hades, Raven's Watch, Children of Morta, another game by the same company. Honestly, these games like find a formula that players enjoy, and they try to, it seems like every release they try to improve from the last one, So I don't know. I really enjoyed my time with it. I would say between a 1 to 10 rating scale, like 1 being don't play it and 10 being play it and 5 being neutral. I'd probably give it like a 7 currently. But
right. I was going to say, it seems like a lot of the criticism on Steam right now comes down to the fact that there's not a lot of content in there, but it is an early access. More content will be coming. It's priced at $25 right now. Do you think it's something that people should invest in now? Should they wish list it and keep an eye on it? Or should they just ignore this one? What are your thoughts?
Well, like I said, I mean, they literally have like a roadmap for all the content that they plan to do before the 1.0. I mean, they have you can do 2-player, you could do 4-player co-op that they're going to come out with, more biomes, more enemies, more bosses, more story, more everything to it too. So honestly, though, at 24, like Pernell said, I hate talking price, and letting that be the determiner. Yeah. At 24, I feel like that's how much I would play for a full game. I'm like paying $25 or whatever it is for part of a game and then waiting for pieces to come. So if this was a full game with everything released at $25, easily I would pay that. That's awesome. Right now, I would probably wish list it and wait a little bit till more content comes out. I mean, like you said, it's the only complaint is content. So
yeah.
I mean, and even me, I put just under 10 hours into this game and finally beat both biomes last night. So it's pretty difficult, and you can make the game harder too. You're playing 2 biomes over and over again. So
yeah,
if you can get past that, get it. If you want to wait, I mean, 24 would be an awesome price for this game.
Cool. All right, well, Andy, that is it for you. I guess we'll let you get going so you can tend to the family.
Yeah.
No, Andy, don't.
I'll still be lurking here too. I want to hear some of these the 8-bit adventures and Crow Country and all these other ones too.
Yeah, we have some good games coming up.
Yeah, these are all awesome.
Like this is actually a good show for once.
And it's episode 999.
I know. Did you see we have a new shirt, by the way?
Oh, I did not. No.
It says 1,000 episodes, 14 good ones.
Nice.
I'm gonna have to get that shirt. That's pretty good.
All right, but we will move on. Next game to talk about is Crow Country, developed and published by SFB Games, released October 16th on the Switch for $19.99. Here's 1990. It's been 2 years since the mysterious disappearance of Edward Crow and the abrupt closure of his theme park, Crow Country. But your arrival's broken the silence, Mara Forest. If you want answers, you'll have to venture deep into the darkness of Crow Country to find them. Chris, tell us about your time with Crow Country.
Okay, well, Crow Country. So, I actually found out that I actually read this in somewhere else. So, I mean, I didn't really verify it for myself, but apparently this is the same dev that worked on Snipper Clips on the Switch way back. You remember that title from like 10 years ago?
It was good.
Yeah, and they also published Tangle Tower, which I had also reviewed, so that's pretty cool.
They have a pretty crazy game lineup. They have a game called Hunt the House and Launchosaurus.
Launchosaurus. Oh yeah, I think I've heard of that. Yeah. But yeah, I didn't play that. But anyways, yeah. So this is it's a throwback, horror survival mystery solving, puzzly kind of game. And so the whole thing about like Crow Country is that it throws you into a kind of. It looks vaguely familiar, like when you look at the graphics of it. Your character kind of looks like a doll, like in segments and such. Not like a realistic person or just like a low res image of a person like you would expect from like a Resident Evil or some other PlayStation 1 throwback. Because there's been a lot of like horror, especially in the horror genre. There's been a lot of throwback kind of games to the PlayStation era because folks trying to tap into that nostalgia for Resident Evil and whatnot. This game goes back even further. I would actually say as soon as I started this game, I got really big Sega Saturn vibes from it. Just from the look of everyone. Maybe it's just because I played I think the first Saturn game I played was Clockwork Knight, and this kind of reminded me of that. Also makes me think a little bit of Guardian Heroes or something not Guardian Heroes. What's that called? Guardian Legend, I think. Anyways,
the segmented bodies make me think of Final Fantasy VII a bit.
A little bit, yeah. And then there's also the Grand Stream Saga, which is a weird PlayStation RPG where people kind of had segmented bodies like that, but they also had no face. They would just be a blank mannequin face. But that was just the way they decided to present it. It was very odd. Anyways, but yeah, with Final Fantasy VII, but minus the Popeye arms, basically. Her arms are pretty normal. But yeah, so yeah, you play as Mara Forrest. The thing that you'll notice right away as you play this game, so it's a horror game, but it's not a horror game. I did not get a single jump scare out of it when I played it, except for one, but it was a toy, and it was within the game there are things that pop up at the character, but we the player are not scared of them, because it's a theme park, so there's little theme park things like a fake vampire that pops out of a coffin. But, you're not, even though it does play a little noise, you're not oh, I'm scared. It's more the character's just oh, that was amusing, I suppose. So in that sense, it's a horror game that has my level of, oh, I can do this. Largely what it is that you are running around in a fully 3D space. So even though the look is very ancient, it does have full 360 control of the camera. There's no tank controls, thank God. That's the one thing that I always dread when it comes to any kind of retro styled horror game, is I just don't like tank controls. That's what kept me away from everything from Dino Crisis to Silent Hill and whatnot, until they started doing full motion 3D. But yeah, it's also even though it is a horror game, it's not fully immersive in the sense that they try to present realism. I mean, for instance, there's literally controller instructions and different tutorials just hanging up on the wall and magazine clippings and stuff like that. And they don't try to challenge you into kind of experimenting with anything or whatever. But like I said, you get through, and it's got a lot of familiar things. You pick up handgun ammo or shotgun ammo, different kinds of weapons. Your ammo's very limited. You have med kits that are kind of stuck all over the place, including, in trash cans and such. So, lots of trash can digging in this one. And then you run into the enemies, which are mysterious beings who kind of look like weird, I don't know, human crow things, but they're red, they're covered in blood or something like that, and they just kind of come at you. They're not very creepy, but they will hurt you a lot if they get a hold of you. So, definitely you'll want to put some distance between them. The game lets you know early on that headshots are king in this game. And so you have your button that pulls out your gun essentially, and really early on, at least for your handgun, you get a laser sight, and then you can aim it up and down and all around, and then just try to get that on their face and destroy them before they take you down. However, if you do not have a lot of ammo on you, then you might just want to try and run past them. It's that kind of game where you can just kind of run past and get to the next area. A lot of what you're doing is when you're trying to solve the mystery by accessing new areas and finding new clues. A lot of these are very esoteric stuff that you can't just guess. For instance, number combinations. There's multiple number combinations within the first few minutes of the game. So the game does kind of push you into getting into like places where you'll find this very, like I said, esoteric knowledge that you're going to need to get through. But yeah, there's like, it's a lot of like interacting with things in the park. Everywhere you go, there's notes on the wall of employees talking to each other, I guess, based on, it's kind of like the Skyrim thing where every person like has a diary where they've written in very undiary type ways, like everything that's happened to them. And so it's like these employee notes to each other that kind of like tell you, oh, the swan is, does this when you do this to the egg. And then the other person's like, oh, I thought the egg was magnetic, but it's not. And like, these different things that'll end up making sense once you like figure out the puzzle. And some of them are pretty clever, but like I said, it's mostly about that. And then, like I said, just kind of keeping the enemies at bay with the limited amount of resources that you have. You also find other characters along the way. Some of them are suspiciously kind of not, I'm not going to say unaware, but they really don't seem to have a sense of danger about them. Like they don't consider this situation dangerous, even though there's like, bloody bird things coming around and trying to kill you. And yeah, the theme park is bird themed, like I said, and you get into different parts of it, and like I said, it's all just kind of ramshackle and run down, but like I said, the ambience of it is like creepy enough. It's got like this kind of I want to call it just like a horror filter of like of this kind of like mist that's kind of low res, so it kind of makes everything look very much like you're playing it on an old TV, but without doing like the fake out like scan lines and things like that, which is pretty cool, I think. Also, the game does have some quality of life that I enjoy, including you can set the gun sights to inverted if you like. I actually found out don't like, but I actually found out I don't like inverted when it comes to aiming a gun while you're able to see the person, like, because it's not aiming the camera, it's just aiming the gun.
Oh yeah.
And so for that, I do like up to be up and down to be down, but you can switch it around, and that's always a good thing.
Options are good.
Yeah, and you also get accessibility options. You have 3 difficulty levels. One is just the normal. One is a hardcore mode where there's even less, resources around and enemies hit harder. And then there's one where enemies simply don't attack you. And you can just walk through and solve the puzzles and clear the game. The enemies are not going to be any kind of threat whatsoever. So if you truly like just want to get into the spirit of it without having to deal with the violence of it, then that is totally up to you. So that's pretty cool. I've actually not seen a horror game have a pacifist option in the as the difficulty, but that is in this one. But yeah, so like I said, what I like about it, I like the story that it tells. Like I said, it's kind of it'll very much remind you of like a lot of the kind of way that these survival horror games sort of unfold, and that is to say, you pick up on the story as you uncover bits of information and everything like that. And of course there's character interactions that are important that kind of unfold this whole story for you. But it's just a fun like exploration type of game. Even though it's horror themed, it's not gonna set your heart racing too much, I guess, unless you put it on hardcore mode. I tried it first in normal mode. I got pretty far, and I didn't figure out how to save it. So when I died, I had to start the entire game over. And I was like solving puzzles and everything, and I realized, oh, you have to talk to a fireplace. That's how you save your game. I forgot to like check that fireplace. So there's a lot of, and by the way, it's one of those things where it's like if you walk up close enough to something you can interact with, it'll give you a menu, like it'll say like it's a telephone, and then you can examine it, so it's not like you're not going to be walking around just tapping A on everything. You can actually do stuff. And by the way, there's also a hint system that is interesting because you get 10 credits for presumably the entire game. And so at any 10 points in the entire game, you can have the game tell you what to do next. So I thought that was pretty clever too. Reminded me a little bit of Earthbound, with their hint system. It's like, you get a hint, but you have to pay for it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, this one you got to pay $20. What do you think of it?
I think this is a very cool game. It's generated a lot of buzz. I think the horror fans tend to really like this one. I don't have this kind of experience with these original games. Like I said, I was turned off by the tank controls in the original Resident Evil and other such type games in this era. But I really like the care that's gone into this one. It really provides a lot of details. It's fun to play. It's not hard to interface with, which is something that I really enjoy about it. And the story is compelling enough for me to keep coming back to it. I have yet to uncover whatever it is that's the big thing that's generating so much hype about it, and I didn't read a lot of other reviews or anything, but I think this is a solid game and worth a buy it.
Cool, sounds good.
Yeah.
Moving on, next is Europa, developed by Helder Pinto and Novadust Entertainment, published by Future Friends Games, released October 11th on Switch and Steam for $14.99. On the moon Europa, a lush terraformed paradise in Jupiter's shadow, an android named Z sets out in search of answers. Run, glide, and fly across the landscape, solve mysteries in the ruins of a fallen utopia, and discover the story of the last human alive. Aki, what is going on in Europa?
Okay, in this you play as a young kid, and you don't know that they're a robot until much later in the game, so I don't know why they put that in the description. Because that is kind of a big part of the story, if you haven't read that.
That's the Steam description, an android named Z.
Well, you don't learn that until damn near the very end of the game. Oh, why would they do that? Wow, okay. So you play as this kid, and you have this weird backpack that allows you to boost through the air and glide and all sorts of fun stuff named the Zephyr Bag. And you are basically traveling from one end of a map to another over and over. Throughout it, you're finding little journal entries written by your grandfather or father, or maybe someone else's, who knows? I just assume they're a relation to you because it makes more sense. And it basically talks about how they had abandoned Earth and they had come to this planet because ancient people of who knows when had started terraforming with robots, and the robots had evolved to better terraform this place, so now it was ready and inhabitable. So people were coming here to inhabit it. And and slowly things go to shit because people are, pieces of shit. And so you're reading through these journal entries as you find them, and you're also finding these giant emerald crystals for reasons. They're a collectible, so you're grabbing them. Otherwise, you're looking around at different very small amounts of living wildlife and different types of robots. Many of which you can sketch the first time you find them, which is for another achievement, and it actually brings up a sketchbook, and it's drawn, and it's really cool looking. And you're moving from one side to the other. Occasionally there are some robots who aren't so pleased with your existence and want to remove you, and they will fire big plasma bolts at you that you need to dodge, and sometimes there's even bombs on the ground that you also have to dodge. But all in all, you're still just traveling from point A to point B. Sadly, there's not actually a whole lot about the game. The whole thing is about the narrative of the story bits that you're finding, because it's barely a platformer. You don't fight in it or anything else, but it is a fairly long experience. I think it took me almost 20 hours to beat it.
Wow.
Yeah, it took a bit. I was really expecting this to be like a 6 to 8 hour game and I'd be easily done with it. That was not the case. And there's a lot of interesting places you visit because the area just travels through a whole bunch of different biomes. Basically, there's a whole bunch that are just like plains, but then there's like icy places and areas that seem like they're underwater but they're not actually underwater, and it's weird because there's floating jellyfish and floating whales and giant pieces of seaweed, but you're not underwater. and it's weird. And stuff like that. So, yeah, there's sadly not a lot to say about the game because it is basically 20 hours of traveling from one end to the other, just flying where you can just to make it move a little faster.
Well, it's a $15 game. If you buy it before the 25th, you could get it for $13.49. What are your thoughts on that game? Well, like Europa is $15. What are your thoughts?
I think this is a decent game, but I think it's more of a buy it on sale type of game because there's just not much here. Yeah, it's a long experience, but it's basically an empty walking sim at that point because there's not a whole bunch for you to do in it. So I think this is a buy it on like a 50% off sale or something, but I think it's definitely worth getting. It's a cute little game.
Cool. All right, next up, 8-Bit Adventures 2, developed and published by Critical Games, released October 16th on Xbox One, Series X and S, Switch, PS4, PS5 for $19.99. 8-Bit Adventures 2 features everything you love about classic JRPGs: an earnest, engaging storyline, relatable, easy-to-love characters, strategic turn-based combat, deep party customization, an unforgettable soundtrack, and a large fantastical world traversed by airship and brought to life by vibrant 8-bit inspired visuals. Pernell and Chris, both of you played this one. Pernell, how about you start us off? What's going on in 8-Bit Adventures 2?
Okay. Well, 8-Bit Adventures 2 initially places you in the shoes of, I guess he's pretty much considered an orphan in this game, Charlie, who is friends with and admires great heroes of yesteryear, heroes that still are alive, by the way. And due to a series of events, finds himself kind of caught up in wanting to tag along with one of his heroes in hope of rescuing another one of those heroes. And then that in turn leads into a much larger experience and adventure in and of itself. I like how this game opens up in that sense because it taps on certain veins of nostalgia, which I'm sure was the intent, hence 8-Bit Adventures. But it feels like a game that could have existed despite being called 8-Bit. I feel like this could have been a game I would have played on the Super Nintendo as far as like the vibes I get and the narrative goes, because while graphically it's an 8-bit, it has 8-bit stylings. As far as the experience goes, I think it hits more of the 16-bit notes, which is a good thing, by the way.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
So as you're experiencing this game, one thing I think is worth noting right off the cuff is that even though it's a turn-based game, and you might be thinking, well, turn-based can only really be exciting if it's like highly customizable, because that's the way it's been lately. This game does have customization elements, which I'll talk about in a few. But I think what's cool about this is that it, in turn, invokes cool aspects of like character uniqueness that a lot of RPGs, the turn-based variety, have kind of walked away from over the years. What I mean by that is each of the main characters and characters you meet that eventually join your party, they all kind of fall under their own personalized archetype. And that archetype gives them characteristics that are unique to them. So to give you an example, the main hero, not the main hero, but the great hero that Charlie admires is of the warrior type of archetype. And he gets the ability to do even his base attack. His basic attack is it allows him to select an enemy and then choose what level of strength he wants the attack to be. And that attack strength, either it'll be higher strength, but you risk lower accuracy, or or high accuracy, but low strength. Ends up coming in handy there. It's unique only to him. In addition to that, they all have God damn it. I'm going to say this word a lot, so you're going to go hoarse. They also have unique secondary skills where, for example, like a thief character can steal, and like Charlie, which I think is an interesting, unique ability, which I thought was going to be kind of dumb at first, but it kind of worked out in his favor later on. He can attack 2 random enemies in battle, but it's at half the strength level. So why would you do that? Well, simply put, you might want to chip away at some enemies so that your stronger guys can knock them out in one strong, solid whack. It's pretty good, but again, early on, it doesn't kind of click. As characters level up, they'll get experiences, they'll level up, and they'll get new abilities and skills, which are exclusive to that. There you go, bam, new word. Exclusive to that character, and no one else can get it. The last typical thing that's exclusive to a character is their Omega ability. And the way Omega abilities work is as you do damage and take damage, you'll be charging up a bar at the bottom of the screen. And when it maxes out, you will be able to unleash this specific attack. Every character has their own particular one that they can apply. It's just your choice of which one you want to use at what time. Now, eventually you're going to get to a point where you have more than 3 party members. And once you get to that point, you'll be happy to know that this employs something that was done in like Final Fantasy X, which is also why that was probably one of the better ones for turn-based combat. I think we even talked about that on the last episode when we interviewed him. But it allows you to hot swap characters in without penalty. So something that more of these kinds of games should be doing, your party that's working together to save the world will be actively together the entire time. There's not that one guy who's going to stay at the end the entire game but get credit for all the work that the active people have been doing in the world. And it results in some pretty cool synergies as far as party members go. Like there's a character you get eventually that gets a free massive heal where you can heal for 30% on the entire party. And it's kind of nice to be able to say, well, if I want, I can just keep this guy in standby. And whenever I feel like the main guys are in need of help, when it's someone else's turn, I'll just swap that character in, use their heal. And then when their next turn comes, I'll swap them right back out if that's what you want to do. You might also want to just use them for what they're actually capable of, which is being awesome. I like the fact that equipment in this game comes in 2 forms. There are your regular weapons, which, again, just like in typical shop form, you go to the store, you can buy them, and they pretty much bump your stats and stuff. But you can also equip augmentations, which come into play later in the game. They are pretty much like, I guess, like stat modifiers and the like that you can equip when you find them. And you get more slots to equip more augmentations as you progress through the game and level up your character. I got a bit of a laugh out of the fact, and I'll stop talking and let Chris go for a bit. I got a laugh out of the fact that one thing I noticed is that when you're exploring the world map and going through dungeons, which, by the way, I love that the world map does not have random encounters. Same with the dungeons. It's just monsters that might pop up. And if you want to fight them, you're welcome to engage them or not. Thank you for respecting my time, developer. But I like the fact that, or laugh, whichever, the fact that it does the traditional RPG staple where you'll be going to the store, shopping like a maniac, getting all your stuff on characters, then open a treasure chest out in the field. That's the hat I just freaking bought. Why did I buy the hat if it's right there? I just wasted my money. I sell the hat, it's worth half the money. Why did I buy your stupid hat? I could have just got out in the dirt. But it happens more often than you'd expect. And I'm like, that's classic JRPG shit right there. Okay, go out climbing, finding hats on the ground. But go ahead, Chris. You should say some stuff because I'm rambling a lot.
That's okay. Yeah, so, I mean, I didn't play as far as you did, so you're going to be more the authority on this one than I was. But I will say that what I do like about this one as a big fan of old RPGs, that is to say, I play them all the time. I'm currently playing through Tecmo's Secret of the Stars, which is another kind of 16-bit game that looks 8-bit. But yeah, no, I mean, I really love RPGs of all kinds, and in fact, I purchased the original 8-bit adventures to also play through while playing through this one. And I really like that this game does tie to the first game. The legendary heroes, of which there are 3, are the actual characters from the first game. So if you did play through the first game, which the developer was a little demure about, but yeah, let's just say it's not as advanced of an adventure as this one, but was still good. It's a much older
game too.
Yeah, I really like it. I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying that yeah, but it does tie into the last one in a way that when you're playing this one, you may actually be intrigued to try the old one too, which I like a lot. And speaking of which, I really love all the throwbacks that this game does provide. Everything from, we've got a screen wipe kind of effect with a sound effect whenever you change scenes in the game. It doesn't just stop and load.
Fall into the abyss of my gaping butthole.
It doesn't just take you to the next area unceremoniously. It kind of reminds me of the original Final Fantasy, which I had asked the developer about, and they confirmed.
Quick shout out to Bree for giving us a raid with 8 viewers. If people were wondering what the Fall into the Abyss sound clip was about. Thank you, Bree, for the raid. Welcome in, everybody. We are talking about 8-Bit Adventures 2. That is out tomorrow on all major platforms. What were you guys saying? Continue on, Chris.
Sure. But yeah, I was appreciating all the nods to the old RPGs. It's got some elements of the original Mother to it, although the first game had that more with its rule about, like, if a door is round, you can go through it, but if it's square, then it's not, then you can't. This has something similar, but it's not quite as obtuse, but I really, really like that about the first game, so that attention to detail. There's another one that actually I found very amusing. So, you know, the game, obviously being a modern game, has enough memory capacity to spell out words. Like, it's not like an old RPG that truncates words into like acronyms or abbreviations or anything like that, or different spellings. Having said, the revive item in this is called Phoenix Down, spelled Phenix, which is a direct reference to Final Fantasy VI, which is, you know, my favorite Final Fantasy. So I really appreciated that. Funny enough, I even found vibes in like this game that from games the developer hadn't even played. So, you know, apparently the spirit really is with this one. Like, because I was talking about Radia Senki, and he was like, "I've never heard of that." So, because like their cutscene style like kind of reminds me of that, which I really like. By the way, speaking of cutscenes, like, even though the game does have an 8-bit presentation, this is not like a sprite swapped NES kind of game. This really does have some excellent details and touches. I especially really enjoy the battle sprites of the enemies, and like how they they're kind of like part of the background. Like, they're not just like there's enemies like coming out of water at you or something like that. Like, you can see it in the screenshots even when you look through the game. But I like that it's not just, big baddie against, a static background, kind of the same static background that all the other enemies are behind, Like, they really went all out on this. All the attacks are given their own animations. You get sometimes like more detailed portraits of the characters as they go to do an attack. Just all kinds of like stuff that, you could tell that the developer really was like luxuriating in their extra development time, because being an indie developer, they didn't have a timeline or a deadline for this thing. So like they clearly like put in all this like extra work and special like stuff, and the soundtrack is like, pretty gigantic as well. So, I really appreciate these extra details in the game. And truth be told, I'm not even trying to like get too far in the Steam version, because I will be buying this on Switch tonight when it goes on sale.
Very cool. Well, it is a $20 game. You kind of
wait. Oh. I want to say one more thing that's worth mentioning too. I think just typical for these kind of games is worth noting. Two things. One, I do feel as though this game, even in regular combat, there are aspects of it where you feel like you are applying a generalized level of strategy to the combat sessions. It may not just necessarily be whack A until the battle's over. I'm not going to say as far as like the battles are giving me all kinds of grief, but I do find myself going, okay, for this guy, I want to try to steal from this guy, swap this guy into this, et cetera, et cetera. And the other thing about that I like is that it does feel like a lot of your abilities that could usually get feel useless, like, status ailments and stuff, they have a solid use in this game. Like, despite having characters that can do all sorts of high damaging attacks, my favorite Omega skill is the Thief's one that binds and poisons and blinds monsters. It's extremely useful.
That reminds me actually a lot of Etrian Odyssey, because a lot of the best strategies in that game don't involve just doing a bunch of damage or tanking a bunch of damage, because if you're playing that game, those games in original or extreme difficulty, which is the same, then you actually do have, like, sometimes you can get one shot by the boss, so you like really have to like work on debuffing, figuring out what status effects work on them so that you can kind of bring them down to your level and then work them over.
Mm-hmm.
So I always do enjoy that, and it's not always an extreme difficulty thing. Earthbound had the same deal. You could grind and just overpower in Earthbound, but the trick is that you can also use items and your other neglected spells often worked on bosses. So you could have
items and spells. Who the hell does that in RPG?
Right. Yeah, you just gotta grind until you got Fire 3, and then just wipe them out.
And then just attack with auto attack and let it do it.
And then complain about the
battle system's
encounter
not
rate.
deep enough.
Yeah.
One more thing that's cool to mention about this game too, because before I forget again, I like how he incorporates the save points, because you can save wherever you want, because that's the modern age of convenience in games. You want to be able to save and get up and go, but he still puts save points in dungeons before big bosses as a cue to let you know you're about to fight something major. You might want to save your game here. And the save point will actually talk to you and give you tips if you want help or suggestions on how to deal with the boss battle and stuff. It's kind of nice.
Seconding that, really big props to the developer for figuring out how to make a game where you can save literally anywhere, like Final Fantasy Mystic Quest or whatever. But you can also, the presence of a save point to telegraph that a boss or like a heavy segment is coming, that is not missed. So it's amazing that they you can have your cake and eat it too with the save points.
Delicious cake.
Now I want cake, but instead I want a verdict on this game. It's $20. What do you two think?
I am literally
recommendation.
Yeah, this is super easy to recommend. I mean, not just because we talked to the developer either. This is a great game. I'm really looking forward to this one. Like I said, I am going to be buying the Switch version. It drops on the 16th, so I'm assuming in the morning. But I'm still going to check it tonight, see if I can buy it tonight.
I got to mention this because this is hysterical in my personal opinion. So you just said you were given a Steam code and you're going to buy the Switch version, right?
Uh-huh.
I was given a Switch code, and I already own the Steam version, and I'm playing it on Steam.
Well,
the Switch code came in long after the Steam keys.
I'm just saying it in the general vibe of just saying, like, we both technically bought the game on our preferred machine, so he's getting his money, and we still like his game. Like, this got me to take the game and start playing it more in depth, because, yes, now I can play it, I'm enjoying it, and I'm moving forward through it.
Yeah, I guess, the only thing is I do wish I could play the first game on Switch as well, whether it had been maybe included with the second game or just on its own. That's the only thing I would say, dang, I wish I could play the first game on this too. But it's all good.
Maybe if this one does well, they'll find cause to bring the first game over. We'll see.
I'm hoping.
Just remastered.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, I'm not worried about it either way. I've got the original on Steam, and I bought it and everything, so I'll beat it there. I want to beat it first, and then start again on the second one, and then, I think that's going to be really fun.
Well, moving on. Next game, Go Mecha Ball, developed by Whale Peak Games, published by Super Rare Originals, released September 26th on Switch, PS5 for $19.99. Load up and roll out in this twin-stick shooter with roguelike progression. Blast your way through arcade-style levels using pinball-style physics mixed with an arsenal of devastating weapons, defeat waves of enemy bots, battle big bosses, and upgrade your mech between runs. Chris, what is Go Mecha Ball?
Okay, so Go Mecha Ball is a... oh, man. I'm trying to remember the character's name. It's like a... I had it right up until the minute that somebody said that Uematsu was retiring, and I was like, he's not really, though, because check his Twitter. He's just not doing full game soundtracks anymore. He just wants to do, like, a song or two at a time.
Yeah. That makes me happy to hear.
Yeah, I mean, he should retire. He's done, like, a lot of work in like...
Yeah,
like
true.
40 years of gaming.
True, but it's like the way you describe it, what it's basically saying is, Now I'm composing for fun when I feel like it, not for a job.
Right, yeah. Which is fine. I definitely understand that impulse. I would I couldn't imagine just stopping music. Like that is such a alien concept to me. I don't even make a living with it.
Well, news is on Thursday, so we got to talk about Go Mecha Ball.
Yeah. Okay, so Go Mecha Ball is
our tangents get weird on this show.
Fine.
Best tangents.
I was really trying to like find the name of the character that you start with in this game, because I can't remember because I'm not in front of my PS5. I usually have the game open and I don't take notes. This is a tactical error, as we're seeing now. Anyways, so this is a game where basically some stuff happens. The world is ruined, and these I guess animal people, kind of cats, are decide to create a mech with weapons, and they're going to go after the thing that's ruining everything, which happens to be sprawled across various procedurally generated levels. So that is what you are doing. You play as I don't know, main character. And you have a mech, and like I said, you start basically the gameplay loop. Well, you start off in a hub world, which does have a tutorial as well, which kind of teaches you how to do everything. And then you get into like the game proper, which, like I said, it's procedurally generated stages where enemies come at you in waves. Once you defeat all of the waves, then you move on through a portal into the next level. And at the end of a few levels, then there's a boss. And then, as I said, once when you're defeating enemies and such, you get currency that you can spend on literally gacha machines that are in the hub. And then those will unlock new weapons, abilities, and kind of skills that are added to the pool of things that enemies will randomly drop for you. It's not just, you don't just build a loadout or anything like that. Like, these just kind of add to the randomness of stuff that you can get. And plus you have a chance to like many roguelikes, you have a chance to pick from a set amount of like pre-rolled like stuff. Like it'll bring up 3 things and you can add one, and they kind of mix up elements and passive abilities and also like weapons. So yeah, the weapons are kind of fun. You've got the like a meow laser, which is like kind of a machine gun, a meow sheen gun, I guess you could say. You get a duck gun, which is actually a shotgun. They're fun, like, toy looking like weapons that are actually devastating. And of course your enemies along the way are largely I think entirely robots, so that's pretty cool. It's violent, but it's not like ultra violent or anything like that. It's explosions but no blood, as far as that goes. The game's kind of an all ages type of game. I think I certainly didn't see an M rating. Yeah, it's an E10. So,
yeah, it's family friendly. It's
family friendly, yeah. So the other thing about this game, besides walking around in a mech and shooting like cool toy guns at robot enemies and stuff, there's another element where you can roll up into a ball, and then as a ball you can use your shot button to kind of boost yourself into a weaponized kind of ball that you basically get to wrecking ball enemies as you're rolling around the stage. The stages also do include like ramps that speed you up, so you can kind of really launch yourself into some enemies. And there's a little bit of a rhythm to it too, because if an enemy is charging up like a shot that's going to really take you down, they'll have an exclamation point above their head. And if you whack them with the power ball, like the wrecking ball move, it'll say denied, and they won't get to do their move. This is very essential for taking down bosses, because bosses will have these really ultra powered moves, but they'll have a long telegraph session, so you'll have a chance to like roll up into a ball and wreck into them. Again, this is a timing thing, because you can't just wreck every time you roll. It's got a charge up and a cooldown. So, you not a charge up, actually, it's just a cooldown. So, you kind of got to wait for the reload period for it. So yeah, the gameplay loop of this is very fun. I found it to be a little frantic, especially like given the isometric perspective. sometimes it'd be hard for me to see stuff that's like shooting at me from just off the screen, because like it's, if you're not moving like a lot, then you're kind of a sitting duck or cat with a duck gun. And it's like a lot of times there would be like shots just kind of coming at me, and your mech is too slow to dodge very effectively. I'm sure that there's an unlockable mech. There's a lot of unlockables in this game, including 3 more characters with 3 more mechs that are shadowed out initially. So I'm sure there's like a faster one, but the one you get initially, it's like too slow to dodge, and then rolling like kind of starts you off in a whole different direction. So it's a lot to get used to. But it is fun enough where you likely will reach at least one boss before you get murdered and have to start over again. And of course, once you start over again, the stages are going to be slightly different. So, no use trying to memorize them or anything like that. But yeah, and interestingly enough, like, so the text, or like the ad for the game, what do you call it? The description. Yeah. Talks about how it's a dynamically generated and interactive soundtrack, and I'm not exactly sure what they mean by that.
I'm not sure.
It does change kind of a little bit depending on what's going on, but like not in a, I don't know. I didn't know how to interpret that, but apparently that's a thing of it. It's a loud game, lots of explosions and stuff, so you'll really get if you're playing this on your TV with your sound system, then you really get a lot of stimulation from this one. But yeah, I had fun with it. Like I said, twin stick shooters, especially on roguelike platforms, not really my flavor, but this is one I could definitely see playing a lot. The only thing I kind of wanted out of it and didn't really see that I could get is I would like a little bit more of a co-op to it. There is an online mode, and I think it's an online kind of battle royale system. I did not try it out, but yeah, I didn't see anything for like multiplayer, and I feel like this would have been a good multiplayer game. But yeah, I'm not, looking at it, it just says single system, 1 player. Yeah. On the Switch version, at least, I didn't see the PS5 version. It didn't give me any options.
PS5 says the same, just 1 player.
Yeah, This feels like it would have been a better multiplayer game, but that's my only real complaint.
As it stands, it's $20. What's your verdict?
If you like twin stick shooters, you're into like, nice, fast, frantic energy, and you like the roguelike kind of thing, then this is definitely one to check out. It runs real silky smooth on that PS5. Like I said, the explosions are loud, the guns are fun, the enemies are tough, but not too tough, at least for the initial runs. I'm sure that the later waves are unforgiving. But there's lots of unlockables. There's, like I said, an online mode that mysterious. But yeah, I had fun with it, and I think it's worth $20 for anybody who's into this kind of thing. Like I said, I just would have liked some multiplayer. That's about it.
Yeah. All right. Well, next up is Dagon Complete Edition, developed by Golem, published by Feardemic, released October 10th on Xbox One, Series X and S, Switch, PS4, PS5 for $9.99. Explore the unique works of H.P. Lovecraft via the interactive stories of Dagon Complete Edition, extraordinary collection depicting the horrors creeping beneath the waves, festering with delirious minds, and more. Our friend Horror Acolyte wrote in an email for this one. Our friend George is going to read it. So, George, take it away, and I'm going to let you decide if it's Dagon or Dagon, because I don't know. So, George, tell us what you think.
Dagon.
Thanks, Joe. All right. Dagon. Joe, you're right. I have no idea how to pronounce that. So, Yo! Can I get a pronunciation check? Is it Dagon or Dagon? Dude, I was just asking for a pronunciation guide. I don't need a monologue. Hey, you promised me you wouldn't talk about the ditch. That was a long time ago. I was very young. Anyway, Dagon, Complete Edition Review, Xbox Series X, by Horror Acolyte. You have to be really careful the way you say that name. I'm just saying.
Your mom has to be careful.
See, that was uncalled for. All right, where was I? Oh yeah. Dagon, Complete Edition, is a narrative experience based on the short story Dadgum by acclaimed science fiction and horror author H.P. Lovecraft. The original story was published in 1919 and is the first appearance of characters from what would later be known as the Cthulhu mythos. Cthulhu, 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 Matata, Hakuna, Matata, Cthulhu, Matata! Whoops, dropped my bacon. This complete edition of the game also includes 3 DLCs based on other unrelated works of H.P. Lovecraft: The Little Glass Bottle, The Railway Horror, and lastly, What the Moon Brings, which is currently a timed exclusive DLC for the console versions of the game. Lovecraft's work has inspired many artists in the science fiction and horror domains, and his influence can still be felt today in many novels, movies, and video games. The core gameplay for this collection could almost be described as a slightly interactive storybook or live reading. A narrator reads H.P. Lovecraft's work word for word from the source material, while on screen you see an environment modeled after the current scene in the story, including the story text. A good portion of the scenes are static, with some animated elements like running water, birds flying, or tendrils moving about, along with appropriate sound effects. The camera view is in first person and centered around a fixed point in the middle of the screen, with no visible character model. You can rotate the camera to varying degrees for each scene to take in the surroundings, and after a few lines of dialogue, there will be a brief pause. During this pause, you can click on specific objects in the environment to continue the story or look for collectible trivia pieces hidden in the area denoted by a question mark or 6-pointed branch. Most of the trivia pieces collected relate to elements of the story or talk about the author's life. When you interact with these trivia pieces, text pops up for each, or you can change the settings so that no text pops up. Either way, you can view collected trivia from the main menu. Reading the trivia right away is interesting for a few of the items because it provides some good insight into the real world around the time the story was written, but it also takes away from the flow of the story. Most of the stories in this collection are rather short, so I can't get into much detail about them. Dad's Gun centers around a man who experiences a horrific event at sea. He uses morphine to numb himself to his trauma and make life more endurable. Unfortunately, he has run out of morphine and the funds to buy more, deciding to end his own life. Before doing so, he recounts the event that brought him to this state. While at sea during World War I, he was captured by German soldiers but manages to escape in a small rowboat. After some time drifting at sea under the blazing sun, he falls asleep and awakens to a dark, sludge-filled environment containing unspeakable things hidden away by the sea. I will not be saying what those things are, for they are unspeakable. Changing gears, the Little Glass Bottle DLC is based on a short story Lovecraft wrote when he was 7. This story is more lighthearted in nature, with a child narrating the story and cheerful adventure music. The text on screen even includes the original spelling mistakes, but the narration says the words as they were likely intended. This story deals with a captain who finds a message in a bottle detailing the location of a stashed treasure at sea. He hires a ship to help him locate the treasure, but is surprised by what he finds below the depths. The Railway Horror is based off a dream that Lovecraft had, which he goes into detail about in a letter to a friend. In this DLC, the narrator is meant to imitate the developer's best guess at Lovecraft's own voice, based on written descriptions of the author's voice, since no audio recordings are said to exist. Within the dream, Lovecraft is transported to a swamp that he manages to exit through the small stone tunnel. Upon exiting the tunnel, he comes across an abandoned railway car on the tracks. The car is running, but where is its operator? Lastly, What the Moon Brings is a DLC based on a short story of Lovecraft's published in 1923. It is the only DLC to not contain any collectible trivia pieces. A man takes a lovely stroll through a garden that has been tainted by the moonlight, leading him to a place that would best remain unvisited. Overall, Dagon, Complete Edition, is a great way to experience Dagon and its accompanying stories. The added visuals and auditory elements aren't spectacular by any means, but they do a good job of enhancing their respective stories, especially for those who are more visually stimulated. A number of the trivia collectibles were quite interesting. As a casual fan of Lovecraft's work, I still managed to learn a bit. Those unfamiliar with his work will definitely take away more from them. While most of these stories do contain horror elements, you need not be afraid. There is nothing overly frightening. I would definitely recommend reading the trivia pieces on a second playthrough, as reading them the first time around does take away from the experience more than it complements. Between going through each story and finding all the trivia collectibles, the runtime for this collection is pretty short, probably only 1 to 1.5 hours. At its $10 price point, I would give this collection a buy it rating, as long as you are aware of the type of experience you are in for. If you're worried about the short runtime, then maybe wishlist it and wait for a sale. Or if you want to get a better idea of what you're getting into, the base story Dagon is free to play on Steam. I'll leave you with these harrowing words from Lovecraft. The most merciful thing in the world, I think, is the inability of the human mind to correlate all its contents. And on the heels of that short amount of borderline terror fuel, we're now going to kick it back over to Joe for a little bit of smut and filth. All yours. Oh my. SML After Dark.
That's right, it's SML After Dark time for the final game with The Lust City 2, developed and published by Candylight Studio. Released September 26th on Steam for $15.99. Embark on an exotic quest in The Lust City 2. Lead your crew through a steamy jungle, unlocking treasures and secrets of an ancient tribe. Craft your seductive harem in a thrilling adventure that will leave you breathless. Obviously, Aki covered this one. So, Aki, what's going on in The Lust City 2?
Okay, this is a direct continuation from the first game. It starts, I think, a couple months or something like that after the first game, and then does a time skip of another few months on top of that, just to further separate it from it. You play as Connor, a young man who originally went out as an adventurer to search for some hidden city, and you definitely fucking found it, and found that it still was inhabited by people who did not want your ass there. And at that point, you had to convince them to let you stay, basically, while having sex with basically everything that moved. It was fantastic. Now, you are king of this place, which puts you above everybody, including the leader who had been leading it for, like, at least a decade before you showed up, and everyone loves her. Somehow, you're still more important than her now because you are king, which is kind of bullshit. But, you know, hey, whatever. So you are now trying to further expand and make this city as good as it once used to be way in the past, because the whole setup was that they had basically, due to some old jackass general that came, basically a pirate, had basically destroyed and ravaged their lands, and they lost a whole chunk of it. And whilst his people are long since dead, so is so much of their history and their knowledge, and so they don't know where even all these places are. And now you're trying to find these places again. And you sent that general guy to hell, literally. It's great. In the first game. Except for, oh, wait, no you didn't. Somehow. Still haven't figured that one out. But he is back. And he is more powerful than ever, and he wants to take control of everything, including the goddess of lust, who is an actual person in this game. He wants to take her power and her magical throne that rightly belongs to you and her, because you're supposed to obtain the power of it. So this story is focusing on you obtaining the power of her kinky throne and kicking the shit out of some undead asshole. So woohoo! Again, all while having sex with everything that moves. It's fantastic. So in this, you are reintroduced to some of the girls that you were able to have sex with in the first game. It kind of treats it as half of them as though you kind of hadn't really done anything with them, so it doesn't take into consideration anything you could have done in the first game, sadly. And yeah, you get 2 different modes in this. There is the visual novel mode, and then there's also a sandbox mode. The only difference between these 2 is basically how you travel around the map. In visual novel mode, you get a list of places you can go. You click one, it brings you there at the end. Nice, simple. In sandbox mode, you have to click different parts of the area you see to go to these areas that aren't actually listed. I don't know why sandbox mode exists, honestly. It just kind of makes the game a little bit harder and more annoying to play. There's also gallery mode. After you've seen a sex scene, there might be a couple variations of it as well, so make saves.
You save scum in a porn game?
Yes, you do. You save scum in porn games a surprisingly large amount of times, actually. At least the ones I play, because they're not kinetic, they're all adventure ones. So sometimes some shit can lead to bad ends, yo. So yeah, I save scum to hell and back. Yes, I do wholeheartedly. I'm not ashamed of that. But there's a gallery, and it's separated between the visual novel and the sandbox modes, even though they're the exact same sex scenes. So again, I don't understand why there's 2 separate galleries for the exact same sex scenes when it could just be one gallery. I don't know. It seems silly. But you still get to talk with people. The sex scenes are more interactive. Well, I say more interactive. They're interactive now. So you can switch between different sex positions and stuff, and you get to determine when your character nuts and all that fun stuff. What is so funny?
Just the fact that you can control when you nut is hilarious to me.
Yeah, there is very specifically a cum button. So
Jesus.
Most scenes give
and
you.
This is why we're not doing this Thursday with the kids' game.
Yeah. Most scenes, there might be multiple scenes in the same sex act, but for each one, there's usually 3, sometimes 4 different things you can do. Like, you might have a choice, but for, like fingering, oral, and spanking or something, and then you can continue to the next set, which are different, actual penetrative acts, like doggy style, cowgirl, whatever, and then you get the option to nut. And yeah, so that was interesting, but I found so far in my gameplay, I'm about a third or so of the way through the game now, it just doesn't feel as good as the first game. The story doesn't feel as concise, and I think part of that is because of all the modifications to the sex scenes, because like in the first game, it was a sex scene. You got whatever the dev created, and that's just what it was. And I think because of the emphasis of creating multiple different things for every sex scene, I think took a lot of time away from being able to further the story and things like that, which makes me sad because I really like this series. So hopefully with their next game, they'll bring back a more deeper story than deeper thrusting.
Well, this one clocks in at $16. Is it fucking worth it?
Oh, it's totally fucking worth it. It's fucking all over the place worth it.
Cool. Any other thoughts?
I want more 3-ways in the game. And more cream pies. There was a lot of cream pies in the first game, and I've come across
cream pie. There's our gas station Sheets has really good Boston cream pies. They're delicious.
I love Boston cream donuts. So But yeah, no, the game needs more cream pies. I haven't found a single person who was acceptable of a cream pie in this game yet, and I feel like you could do that with everybody in the first game, and I kind of want that back.
Well, speaking of cream pies, we have come to the end of this episode. Thanks everyone for hanging out the whole time. Music this episode, we are going to play some more of the OneUps off of their album Songs for the Recently Deceased. Because we did Silent Hill 2 this episode, we're going to play some Silent Hill from the OneUps.
Did you know or acknowledge at any point that this, like, today is like the 10-year anniversary of that album?
I know. 10 years. Makes me so old. Well, Andy, since you're still here, if you're still here on mic, do you want to give us some final words? He is not here on mic. Oh, wait, there.
Silence is. Ooh, he's back.
Oh, sorry, I turned my mic off.
Would you like to give us final words to end the show?
Dude, of course. Yeah, I was sorry. I was like talking and I was like, oh, wait, nobody can hear me. I did. I prepared for this. I went and I researched some words of wisdom. And so for anybody trying to beat a boss or trying to beat that level or overcome that challenge, just remember that you never lose. You only win or learn.
I like that.
And you can probably cheat.
Or you could cheat too. I mean, but that's Aki's version.